Welcome to another episode of Rolling Stories HR Podcast. I'm Adrian Tan, and each week we bring you candid conversation with leaders who are shaping the future of work. Today we're exploring the evolving world of performance management, a topic that's often misunderstood, sometimes dreaded, I would say often dreaded, but absolutely crucial for organizational success. My guest today is no stranger to navigating complexity and turning chaos into connection. My guest is the CHRO at AEON Bank Berhad and was recently named as ETA World Southeast Asia HR Icon 2025 winner. Kareena's journey into HR wasn't a straight line. She's trained as a lawyer before making an accidental leap into industrial relationships, a move that's given her a unique lens on people, change, and culture. And with over 15 years of experience across financial institutions, she is now leading the charge at AEON Bank, Malaysia's first Islamic Digital Bank. With that, welcome to the show, Kareena.
Hey, thank you. That was quite a lovely introduction. One of the best I've had so far, really.
Oh, thank you. I will send my regards to ChatGPT that managed to do the research for me.
Excellent. Hey, I tell you, I use Gemini every day.
Today's topic is really more of the performance management aspect, which we discussed before and thought it would be something that we want to touch on. I'd like to first understand the origin story behind your passion for performance management. Is there a specific moment in time, experience that made you realize how broken or misunderstood performance management often is in organization?
So, when we first had our first discussion, right? And
Yep.
I said, okay, and you said, what do you want to talk about? And I said, performance management. And you were like, why? I tell you, there are two actual reasons because I thought about it later. One was we were actually closing up our performance cycle. Okay. Finalizing performance ratings, doing talent council for calibration and all that, and then going to the board. And it's always an extremely frustrating exercise because nobody plans for it properly. It is very rushed. And, everybody just does it because they have to do it. And then, all the arguments, because we do audits of the ratings that are submitted, right? And you have to look through everything and you're like, hello, in the first place, drafted properly, even though we told you a long time ago as well. But the other real reason why I always feel performance management as the concept, as a philosophy is always neglected is because of how I entered into HR. Now, when I accidentally went into HR, I was in industrial relations and employee relations. And all I see is the bad stuff people do in the organization. So, yeah, you have all your misconduct and all that, where you have to draft, quite serious charges and do investigations and all that. But a lot of it is also poor performance. Okay? And you see the absolute worst and the frustration on both sides. Nobody wants to be a poor performer, right?
Yep.
Nobody wants to go to work today and say, I'm not going to do anything and I'm just going to make everybody's life a misery. It's never like that. Nobody starts off like that. It might turn into something like that. And I realize that most of the issues that we have, even some of the misconduct, where you have harassment or people, insubordination and things like that, it has to do with a mismatch of expectations for the role and what the manager expects. And why? You don't spend enough time with the people who report to you, okay, the people that you actually have control over. You don't have enough time to sit with them and talk to them and explain to them what you really want and what they really need to produce for you and how they need to do it and whether they can or cannot do it. And that is the thing that always drives me crazy. I mean, until today, I have senior people coming and telling me we need to do such and such a thing because such and such a thing. I'm like, okay, so is this going to be a surprise to the employee? Are they going to be shocked? Why did you give them a okay performance rating? Why did you give them an increment? Why did you give them a bonus? And then 3 months later, you're coming and telling me everything has failed. Why? What does that tell you? So yeah, as you can see, I'm getting a bit vexed about it because it's just a continuing problem. It doesn't end.
And I must admit, what you have described isn't unique. I have heard and seen so many of such stories. Okay, firstly, I have been on the receiving end of such performance review. I have been in roles that wasn't suitable for me, so I've been through that. You would think that having gone through a few times, one would be accustomed to it, but it's still awkward every time you go through it. And yesterday, I was working from home, and my wife was working from home. She has to deliver a PIP to a director. You know, our house not big lah, so I can hear the entire conversation. But even though I'm a third party, I was cringing based on what she was saying. I couldn't hear what the guy was saying. She was on earphone, but I could already imagine the kind of emotions that you will be going through that person because, oh, why? Why suddenly PIP, like you said? Because 3 months ago, everything is a bit of roses, and then suddenly this way. Why do you think this is happening consistently across the board? 3 months ago, everything is okay. 3 months later, okay, I want a divorce.
So this is again there's this concept called recency bias. Okay, and it's very true when you're in your performance cycle. The amazing stuff you did in over the past year doesn't count except for what happened in the last 1 or 2 months. And then that colors everything. Or sometimes but the real reason is this people cannot have these difficult conversations. They find it difficult to because these conversations are always confrontational. No matter how you try to couch it, no matter how you try to use, all the flowery language and all that, if you have the courage to actually have these conversations, it is always difficult. And it's emotionally very stressful, not only for the person who's on the receiving end, but it is also very difficult for the person who's actually having to do the conversations. Most of the time, you don't know how to start. So you always start with the bad thing that the person has done, right? You didn't raise this, your ticket all salah. When you raise your tickets for change, whatever and all that, you don't document properly. And the thing is, things like this have been going on for months and months and months, if not years. Then the manager reaches a limit, right? That's it lah. This is the last straw. And it always happens when whatever it is that the employee does affects the line manager at whatever level. Because your manager's face is now in jeopardy. Your manager's reputation is in jeopardy. And so it reaches that kind of thing, right? Or people above your manager are complaining to everybody else. So and so is like this, so and so is like that. So for me, my number one bugbear is that people don't address the issue soon enough. Sometimes you can nip it in the bud. And sad to say, very, very, very rarely do PIPs actually succeed. But I have seen in 2 or 3 instances and spaced out over many, many years where people actually took on board the feedback. The manager was very reasonable and compassionate and empathetic and helped with the person's development. And I tell you, people fly. I've seen it. Okay, I will tell you I've seen it 3 times in 3 different organizations. But of course, I would say in 90% of cases, it fails.
I would also imagine those would be the rare cases because
very rare.
At least in my space, I have never heard of anyone becoming a star player and then telling everyone, oh, it all began when 5 years ago I was put on PIP. Said no one ever at least in my space.
Shame. And the employee always goes into PIP thinking that this is it for me. And it has a very counterproductive effect. Even if the manager is really, vested in the process and really wants to help the person, because maybe the person just doesn't have the correct competencies. Okay, there's no attitude problem. But when you have an attitude and competency problem together, then it becomes more difficult.
I see.
But of course, when you start something, walls go up. For the manager, it is already the last straw kind of situation. For the employee, it is like, 5 years I've been doing this. Now only you tell me? What the hell, man?
You actually got me thinking, maybe for companies. So there's basically 2 issues I can distill here. The timeliness of delivering the bad news. Don't wait.
It's not always bad news. Don't even call it bad news.
True. Yeah.
If it is true performance management, it is not about bad news. It is ongoing feedback. As true as practicable. You must do that. When it is bad news, it suddenly drops in your lap, then it's bad. Then it's already failed.
Yeah, but the bigger issue I think here is people just do not seem to have the intentionality to deliver that piece of news or that feedback, because like you said, nobody want to say the bad things lah. So it actually got me thinking, maybe for companies who want to hire people manager in the future, one of the screening exercise is, oh, you do a role play. Now I need you to lay off someone.
Hey, I tell you, when I interview people, and I do that a lot, I always ask them, what is your experience in managing poor performers? I never ask whether you manage anybody out. I say, what is your experience in managing performers, and what would you do if you are faced with that as soon as you join, right? And then you realize that, whatever, and all that. So they will tell me all these beautiful things, right? Oh, I will first make an assessment. Then I will talk to the employee. Then I will see how I can adjust. I said, okay, now you tell me this. If we actually do hire you, I expect you to do that, right? But no lah. Very rare. Very rare. Of course, there are times when certain senior people are actually brought in with the sole intention on purpose of clearing out, whatever bad or deadwood there is lah. So that is of course a different story.
The cleaning specialist lah. Yeah.
Got. Also sometimes necessary. What to do?
Yeah. No, so having said that, it sounds to me this problem could almost be, I wouldn't say easily resolved, but commonsensically is resolved, because the problem statement is so obvious here. But why are so many organizations not taking any action on it? Because I still see many companies behaving in the same fashion, applying the same recency effect, getting everyone to do performance review suddenly and making it a chore like doing your taxes. Why is that the case?
I tell you. So your performance rating is always viewed as a means to an end. What is that? What is that end? The amount of bonus you get. Okay. Have to do. How do I increase the pool? How do I bump up the numbers? Once I actually get my pool, then how I distribute. It's really about that. Unless somebody is, honest enough, I'm talking about a manager here, to actually address issues as and when they develop. That means on time. The timeliness of addressing issues, it is always a paper exercise. Even though now nobody uses paper, okay? And everybody thinks that, oh yes, we have a beautiful system in place. There is a platform. You can give. You can go and write. You can go and change. There's ongoing feedback. The employee can add things. The manager can add things, can write and, tell you how you're doing. Doesn't work like that. It's always go and do. 6 months fake review is done, and then the final thing. The motivations are always different. And now I tell you, with the advent of AI and helping you with your writing, you see some beautiful essays lah. So well written, very hard to, say, oh, this may be slightly over embellished, but this is what you actually deserve. So in most cases, I see this all the time. Like, I have a lot of vendors who try and contact me, right? And they always talk about their performance management system. So I always tell them, at the end of the day, I really don't care what the UI UX experience is. At the end of the day, how will it change the behavior of managers and employees? It is together. You're having a very sophisticated performance management system means nothing if your employees and your managers don't buy in and actually use the system to its full capabilities.
So on that note, I think we also want to learn from you. What are some of the best practices, or maybe along the way as you develop this approach within your organization and the organization that you've been in, what are some of the best practices one might want to look at in trying to imbue this ongoing feedback and two-way communication, regardless of the platform that they're using?
Correct. So for me, the most important thing at the end of the day is continuous feedback. Whether you formalize it by saying you're going to have a catch-up every week, every 2 weeks or not, you must do it. And the thing is, it doesn't even have to be a formalized meeting, recorded and all that. it is constantly being in touch with the people who report to you. And I understand that for larger teams, it can get a bit difficult. But that is where also the concept of span of control is very important. If somebody is managing 12, 15 people who are direct reports to them, it's going to be difficult. So, yes, although we always strive for a very flat organization, you also have to be logical about it, right? If I have 15 people reporting to me, how am I going to manage each and every one of them? That means my entire week, my entire work day, I will have to spend 2-3 hours with one person. You cannot. You also have your own work. Your one line, your one downs don't do everything for you. There are things that you have to do yourself as well. You're not sitting there only managing people, right? So at the end of the day, it is increasing the frequency of the interaction with the people who report to you. So you always know what is going on. So they can always escalate to you when they have problems. If you don't do that, it's not going to work. I mean, sometimes to institutionalize it, you probably have to set up more formal meetings, as in actually set aside specific time to deal with issues. Could be 1 hour, could be half an hour, could be 10 minutes, depending on what's happening at that point in time. Or if everything is going, on track. Or, continuously pop in. Check on them. And I don't like this, I will only talk to you if I have a meeting set. I will only talk to you. I cannot do that. You cannot do that. You must be and you have to be able to build a rapport. So being a manager is not just, making sure people produce, right? It is building relationships with the people who report to you.
I personally have 4 kids, and new friends who are amazed by how I manage 4 kids, I will always tell them, it's easy, just have low expectation. And of course, you cannot possibly micromanage 4 kids lah. You cannot, all of you must wear the same t-shirt, must wear the same socks, hair must comb this way. You cannot micromanage. As long as...
I think the worst thing is everybody go to bed at 9 o'clock.
Yeah. So my expectation now is if we go up, just stay alive. That's the bare minimum. And I think the same applies to what you just said about the span of control, which really makes sense. I actually spoke with CHR recently, and I was surprised to hear that her span of control was, I can't remember the exact number, I think it's about 25 or 27. I was thinking, wow, if you talk to each of them every single day, one month working day also not enough. Because if you think about it, 1 month at most 22 working days. But of course, in her defense, she said, not all of them require that kind of level of TLC. So some of them maybe don't have to talk to them so often, etc., etc. But still, it sounds like a ridiculously high number. Based on your experience, is there I wouldn't say a magic number, but would there be a number where, regardless of organization, it just start to become hard already?
I would say once you breach 8 or 9, and depending on the complexity of the function, right? That also plays a very important role. So for very technical type of functions, it becomes more and more difficult. You have 8 or 9 different, because each function, nobody's going to be doing the same thing within a department within the function. Nobody's going to be doing the same thing. Otherwise, why would you have them in separate departments, right? So depending on the complexity of a function, I tell you, even 8 or 9 is going to be almost impossible. No need to talk about CEOs CEOs and their 12, 13 direct reports and all that. Sometimes just the structure or the kind of business that you run requires that kind of thing. But then of course with the CEO, you have much more senior people under you, right? And you don't need that super direct. I don't expect CEOs to sit down and talk to me at least once a week. But I make a point of, going and updating my boss and telling her what is going on, what is the real issue now, and what I'm doing about it. That's another thing. People always forget to tell people what I'm doing about it. What they always do is, I have this problem.
I think that's a great point. It is actually a two-way street. You cannot just expect your reporting officer or your manager to constantly come and check on you. There are opportunities for you to do it the other way around. In one of my jobs, when I was still in the corporate world, I actually noted down every end of the workday what are some of my achievement for that day. And
that's super organized of you. I'm impressed.
It's just a bullet journal. And the point is, at the end of the week, I will try to pick the highlights. and then I'll send it as an email to my boss. Boss, at that point in time, he was managing us from India, so
I
there's no
see.
visibility. Yeah, and
Correct.
he wasn't making that intention to check in more. So I have to make the intention to check to let him know what is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? When you have all these regional roles and people think, oh, it's okay, one person can manage, multi countries and this and that. Then you really have to think about the empowerment that people have to
Yep.
do the things that they need to do. How often what are the layers of complexity? When it comes to approvals and all that. How are you making it better for your employee? I tell you, working in a bank, and I've generally worked in financial institutions my entire life, except for when I was a lawyer and writing for the law report. The layers required in a bank, as far as approvals go, it drives people mad. And I tell you, we are still very small. We are a startup, but already I'm beginning to see this fatigue, about the approvals and the amount of complexity when it comes to processes and procedures, and then the approvals and how you raise them and all that. And I suppose in a bank, because we're so highly regulated, you really cannot run away from it. But you see, our employee population, this is one of the cultural issues that we face. We're a bank, but we're also a tech company. So the combination of the two sometimes seem, very, how shall I say, they're not, they seem incongruent lah. Because, you expect tech companies to be able to turn on a dime and, do everything. And, the word agile.
Yep.
Tell you, I want to vomit blood now I hear the word agile. We use agile everywhere for everything. You must be agile. But being a bank, how agile can you really be? And 65% of our employee population have no banking experience. They come purely from tech. And so the people who come from banks, because you need them as well, because of the structures involved and the kind of products that we have, both sides find it very frustrating lah. So there is a lot of collaboration that's required. There's a lot of hand-holding required by the managers themselves, explaining again and again that, look, see, this is where that feedback comes in again, right? The continuous feedback. Because we're a bank, we have to do this. Because we're a bank, we have to do that. And eventually, it will all work together, but you always have to be able to encourage the collaboration. Both sides don't know half of what the other side is doing. They don't understand each other. But I've seen compared to January 2023 when I joined and I was employee number 23 and I was the only human being in HR. Okay. And now there is a greater understanding, and there is it's not so difficult anymore lah, because people are more willing to talk to each other and understand that, okay, if I don't know this, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to talk to you, and we're all on one floor.
Yep.
So there's no such thing as anybody's door is closed or you cannot go and talk to so and so. People walk in my room all the time to complain about things, and I have big boxes of tissues. Yes. Always cannot run away from that. HR ma.
But your digital bank cannot use paper.
Tissue can lah. Hello. How do I digitally wipe tears? Cannot.
Now, with that said, I think it's also interesting to explore the performance management setting of an organization like yours, because in a startup or fast-changing environment organization like yours, right, like especially in your case, building a digital bank from scratch, adapting performance management, I know you hate the word, in an agile fashion must be crazy lah, because what you were told in January may change by March, may go back by October, and may be scrapped by December. So with that shifting goalpost, how does one even consider performance management?
I tell you, I'm very proud of this, and this is something we have borrowed from our tech brothers. Okay, we don't do your set one time, review one time, and then finalize over the course of 1 year. We do OKRs. I don't care what you call them. Like, you can call them OKRs, KPIs, whatever. I'm not into all the jargon. Okay, but what we do is every 3 months we review the goals. These are goals, and it works. Why? Because people work on different things throughout the year, ma. Most of the time, you can finish something within 3 months, especially if you're building something, you're enhancing something, you're tweaking something. If you need to carry over, you carry over. But the important thing is the review is done every 3 months. So our system is we have OKRs that are reviewed and finalized every 3 months. If you need to carry over is okay. There's always justification. There's always a way to explain it. Doesn't mean every 3 months everything finished and then you start a completely new set. It doesn't mean that. Some roles don't even need to do it every 3 months. So you have to be flexible that way. So that 3 month thing has been very, very beneficial to us. I think now my next plan will be really to get away from individual goals, individual OKRs, individual KPIs, and go into team-based KPIs. And I think as we mature, that will be a good thing for all of us. Different pods have different teams, and you are based on what the entire pod delivers. So nobody is left behind, and everybody has to pull their weight.
Okay, understand. So it's basically very, in the sports analogy, your striker could be scoring a lot of goals, but the team still lose, which is pointless.
Yeah, because the goals are not going in, right?
Or own goal, even worse.
Even worse. And it happens.
Hmm.
Like another thing I realized also, and this has to do with generational issues. Okay. We have our average population age, even with the old people who are from the banks and all that. And yes, there are some of us who are quite old. Like when I graduated, they were probably like 3 years old or 2 years old kind of thing. Yes, got. So our youngest employee is 22 years old. Okay. That means I was already married by the time the person was born. I find that sometimes they can be a little bit less resilient to change. In a startup, so the environment of a startup, is very different, right? There's no linear development or linear growth process because you are in a position where you can do something. If it doesn't work, you can change it. And I find that sometimes what people don't understand about a startup is that things change very quickly. You must be able to, because otherwise you are saddled with the problems for years and years and years, and then they become your legacy issues, right? So what you are able to do in a startup is, as you are progressing, you very quickly figure out what works and what doesn't work. And what you do then is you have to course correct. And I find some of our younger employees, the youngest ones, they are unable to deal with the change because as you told me you do this, I've done this, now you go and change it, and now all my work doesn't count anymore. So where's the recognition and reward that I will get for that work? So we try to explain that this is the situation, and again, it's change management and change communication, right? How well you do it, and that is part of your feedback process. That is part of overall performance management. You are not going to be penalized because what you built didn't work, and so we have to change it. We also will recognize the effort you have put in. And I think over time, it has settled down a bit because in the beginning, it was a real problem. You told me you do this and now then you tell me it doesn't work, so I have to change it. So what's going to happen to me? It's all about me, right? Nobody cares about anything else now. It's all about me. What am I getting out of it? What's in it for me? I mean, this has always been the thing about human beings, but it can be more pronounced in a very high-paced, fast environment.
I would imagine it really also call for how the manager would be dealing with performance management, because all of us by default, I would really say by default, has this recency bias that we talked about earlier on. And to constantly be reminded, oh, no, we still got to account for what was done previously based on what was previously said and done. And you have to keep that in a consistent fashion. I would imagine that calls for a lot of education. So to my next question is, for any traditional companies out there who are listening to this and has the buy-in, okay, we have to switch over to this new way of doing things. What are some of the baby steps, or particularly what are some of the minefields you want to tell them to avoid to make the slow shift over to this new way of doing things?
Well, at the end of the day, right, it is not just about having a system in place.
Mm.
The most important things for any HR leader to institutionalize in the organization, to make it like it's so common and so normal that you don't even have to count it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Right? You don't have to like tick a box. You have to start having weekly check-ins minimum with your direct reports. Minimum. That's the first baby step. You will be surprised. Very, very early on, it becomes clear whether you and this person can work together.
Mhm.
And both may decide that, okay, maybe this is not for me. And it happens in a very amicable way. The other thing is the trust and the rapport grows between people. The employee gets a sense of safety. Okay, that okay, I'm on the right track. Nothing is going wrong. It's very important to employees. Even at my age, I still feel like that. Like I need to know, I need to be able to understand that actually, okay, everything is working and it's on track, and I'm getting the validation for that. And you are able to provide that validation during these one-on-ones. There's actually at the end of the day, there's no real magic wand. But really, for me, yeah, there's none. There's none. You have to account for the environment, you have to account for the industry, you have to account for personality. And I tell you, I'm sure people tell you they hate managing according to personality, but it's unavoidable, completely unavoidable. Different strokes for different folks. A very, very old thing, right? But yeah, and as a manager, you must be able to adapt. The other thing is, please ensure that your managers understand what real communication is and what real feedback is. And we're talking about constructive feedback. This is not feedback where I throw the report at you and say, this is bullshit. How did you even come? That is not the way. That is not constructive feedback. That is not communication. And what did we say earlier? It's all common sense, right?
Yep.
These are the fundamentals. If you are able to build a culture where feedback is accepted, feedback is transparent, feedback is constructive, there's no reason why your company will not fly, why you will not achieve most of your goals.
Yep.
Of course, there are environmental factors that you have to think about. One thing I like about our three-month review for the OKRs is that it allows people to course correct. You get official feedback, but of course, I hope that the feedback is ongoing, not over the 3 months before you actually sit down and review your OKRs. I also like to have especially within the tech team and all that, it's people like Scrum Masters, even though they may be going out of fashion now, they're actually very helpful. Yeah. So now there's this new thinking that maybe Scrum Masters, you should just do away with them. We don't require them. After we have spent thousands and thousands on certification, all that and training, right? You have to provide them. And the other thing is, you must always come back to HR where you believe that different people require different developmental interventions. Okay, you have to. I know a lot of people think HR is useless, but actually there are times when we can really help. We are not there just as do your transfers, issue your letters and all that. We don't even issue letters anymore here. Just send you an email, right? Yeah. So HR can help in that way, and HR must help in that way. You cannot distance yourself. A lot of people like to see HR as a kind of a governance, kind of gatekeeper kind of thing. I look at HR as customer service. Where you can, you must bend over backwards to help your people, your business. Where you cannot, you have to put your foot down. And sometimes the decision is beyond your pay grade. It's okay. But it's very important that the people who are making the decisions have all the information required. I tell I don't care how junior you are in my team, you must always be able to provide all the necessary information, because the decision is not yours to make. Okay, it's somebody else's. And they can only make an informed decision if they have all the. Now, when it comes to goals for more senior people, it's a little bit more difficult. Generally, our goals are approved by the board. In a bank, it's like that. It's the board, it is the your nomination remuneration committee, REM committee. it's so, if your goals have to change over the course of the year, there's no law that says you can't change them, You just have to go back to the appropriate authority who approved them in the first place and say, I need to change this to this because of this. Be clear lah about why it needs to be changed. And the other thing is, managers themselves need to understand their goals in general. Sometimes they also have a very vague or hazy view of what it is they need to achieve. And that has a very, very direct and detrimental effect on the employees. So managers also need to know how to set goals. And there's no magic formula. What is the outcome you want and how you're going to get there? That's it. Don't go and tell me I have to write, 300 bullet points in my OKR, in my beautiful platform and all that. No. I always tell people, work backwards. Work backwards. What do you want to actually see out of this and by when? And everything else will fall into place because that will tell you how you need to do what you need to do. I mean, Adrian, these are fundamentals.
It is fundamentals, which of course boggles many people why they are not being practiced more commonly and why this conversation is still such mind-breaking for many people out there. But I think what you have shared has really opened a lot of eyes and minds for many people. I think especially in an era where HR is more critical than ever before to business success, because ultimately every company can spend money on the latest machinery, latest tech, etc. The key differentiation boils down to the players, because if equipment and tech is all you think will differentiate your business, then every football team should perform the same, but they don't.
Exactly.
It still depends on the
A tool
players.
is just a tool, right? A tool is just a tool. How do you use the tool? I mean, I'll just give you Excel, which we don't use, by the way. We use Google Sheets, okay? No, but we still have to because of regulatory submissions and all that. The thing is, look at the magic people can do with Excel and what I can do with Excel, which is nothing. When I first started in HR, being a lawyer, you think in Word. I used to draw a table in Word. Can you imagine going to a bank and drawing a table in Word and everybody giving you that look like, kind of, So, I have to say my Excel skills have improved over the years, but I won't say that, it's amazing, but the tool is amazing.
Yep.
But I'm not amazing with it. So, a tool is a tool.
Yep. And before we let you go, as we're coming to the end of the discussion, we are going to a rapid fire segment. Short questions, short answers, very basic stuff. I think it'll be interesting for us to go through it.
And don't be so basic.
Not basic. Okay, Ken. Okay, I'll start off with some warm-up question first. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What's your go-to way to unwind after work?
Watching science fiction on TV. There's not much and it's not good, most of it. I'm a science fiction crazy person. Actually, what I do is I listen to audiobooks. I have a subscription. And what saves me, driving to work and coming home in the jams, KL and the jams, right, is being a calm driver because I listen to my audiobooks. Yeah, if not, I would have killed people by now. Yeah.
Okay.
So the audiobooks help.
Good to know that. One HR myth you wish would disappear forever.
HR myth. That HR is your postbox.
Okay.
HR is not your postbox. HR will help you, but HR may also slap you.
Okay, and if HR has a superpower, what should it be?
Empathy.
What's the best career advice you personally ever received?
Oh, okay. My CEO at that point in time, I'm the kind who can generally get a bit aggressive. Okay, this is not rapid fire. I can get aggressive and hostile during meetings, especially where I feel like something is going to affect my work and how it is done. And so during a performance appraisal, actually, he said, Kareena, I understand where you're coming from and I understand why you're doing this. He said, but there's always a better way to present that message. The way you do it now, you are making people feel unsafe in what is supposed to be a safe platform. I tell you, that really hit me hard. I was like, oh my God. And this didn't happen very long time ago. It probably happened like 7 or 8 years ago, you know. And it hit me hard. And I tell you, it really, really changed the way I look at how we interact during meetings. It's not just a professional courtesy. It is, you can be very professionally courteous while also cutting somebody dead, depending on the strength of your vocabulary.
Yeah.
Okay, and it is very, very, and it's so true. And I have always, I took that to heart, lah, and it meant something to me. And until today, I still thank him for it.
Which goes
And
back
I'd say
to
for me-
our original discussion, the power of feedback.
Exactly.
And
that was during a performance appraisal.
okay. Now, moving on to the last two questions. If you could automate one part of your job tomorrow, what would it be?
The recruitment and selection process, which cannot be automated and cannot be, especially for selection, lah. Because I tell you, there are a lot of vendors out there who come tell me, we will do for you everything. We will look at all the resumes and give you the best fit and and all that. I've tried many, lah. None of it works. And that is the thing that eats up the most of my time. The not being able to recruit fast enough, not being able to get the correct candidate, having candidates fail for some reason or other. And I tell you, if that's the magic wand that I want for me personally, because in a startup, all you do is recruit. I feel like I became a recruiter. In January 2023, I became a recruiter and all we did was hire. So yeah, for me, that is the thing that I want to that will really make a difference to my life. So we did actually lessen the burden somewhat for the recruitment and selection process by getting an RPO. But
Okay.
that's not really automation lah. I mean, I automated it by farming it out, but that's not really automation in the true sense of the word.
Understand. Okay, and last question. If you were not in HR, what do you think you'll be doing?
I'll probably still be a lawyer lah, or writing, because after I stopped practice, I used to write for a law report, and until today I have not had a more intellectually engaging job in my entire life. The mental stimulation, the things you are exposed to, nothing can beat that. Only problem is it doesn't pay lah. Publishing doesn't pay.
Have to choose your battle lah. Kareena, thank you so much for sharing your journey and insights with us. I think a blend of empathy, humor, and strategic thinking is really inspiring, as I said, especially in an era where HR is more critical than ever to business success. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Adrian.
And for listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share Rolling Stories HR podcast. Until next time, keep rolling forward and keep those stories coming.